Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about probability theory. Means in this class we'll be talking about probability. So the title of the talk would be like theory of probability. So let's see what is the basic or the ground to talk about probability. So suppose we perform any kind of experiment. ठीक है? So which is under similar condition. Now by similar condition what I mean, suppose I toss a coin and what happens? I keep on tossing the coin, either I'll get tail or I get heads. So when I repeat that experiment again and again, the conditions are similar, means I'm not changing the individual who's performing the experiment, I'm not changing the coin. Whatever situation I was in, means if I was in room number A and there I was the person who was performing this task. So the conditions are remaining similar. Like if I keep on changing I keep on repeating the experiment. So such an experiment where I am tossing the coin. So now we understand what do we mean by an experiment. Then now suppose we perform some task and in that task what happens? I know that what the result is going to come. And there are certain experiments in which we do not know what the result is going to be. So the situations where result is known to us is called as deterministic situation, and the situations where result is not known to us is called as probabilistic phenomena. Correct? So now deterministic situations are what? The laws of physics, like when we say the velocity of an object with some, suppose you have some object with some initial velocity u, and in some time t you accelerate the object. So then the velocity after some time t of the same object is given by this formula, v is equal to u plus at. So here we know if we have some initial velocity, we give some acceleration to the object, and in some time t, what would be the velocity of that same object that is governed by this law. So this is a deterministic phenomena. Then we know that volume, the Boyle's law, where we say that the volume of a fluid is inversely proportional to the pressure of the fluid. So these are deterministic phenomena. Now what is probabilistic phenomena? As I said, suppose I toss a coin. I know the outcomes, which are either head or tail, but I do not know what is going to come. So such situations, these are probabilistic phenomena or random phenomena. So example, tossing of a uniform coin or future demand of a product. Suppose we launch some product. Say we launch some new kind of pen into the market, you know, and we hope that it will be liked by the youth or the officials working in the various administrative or corporate world. But whether it would be liked by somebody in future or not, like suppose today there is demand of this kind of pen, but it could happen that after 1 month there won't be any demand for such pen. So these, like launching of a product and whether that product would be liked by the audience or the customer in the future, that is probabilistic or the random phenomena. Now the terminologies which we are going to make use of, basic terminologies. The very first is random experiment. So suppose I perform some experiment and I do it again and again. So when I'm repeating the experiment, each time I perform an experiment, that becomes a trial. Okay? Under similar condition, as we have used the word earlier, the outcome is not unique, but is one of the possible outcomes. Then the experiment is called as random experiment. Tossing of a coin, rolling of a die, the price of the stock in the future. Now, the word terminology that will be used in probability again and again is outcome. That is the result of the random experiment. Suppose I toss the coin, that is a random process. Matlab, it is a random experiment. Then, if I get a head, that is one of the outcome. If I get tails, that is another outcome. Okay. Then the word used is trial. That is any performance of a random experiment. I toss a coin once, that is one try. I toss the coin second time, that becomes my second try. Now, what do we mean by the event? This word is most commonly used in the probability theory: event, outcome, or the combination of possible outcomes. So let's understand this thing. Tossing of a coin is a try, and getting heads or tails is an event. So now, what is a simple event in which we can have a single outcome, like rolling of a die? ठीक है. Suppose I take my event as the occurrence of two. So that would be a simple event. Now, when I roll a die and I make a collection of the outcomes like 2, 4, and 6, so such outcome is called as compound event, or the event which results in multiple outcomes. So, suppose I roll the die and I make the observation ki as in when even numbers are coming, 2, 4, 6, these are the even numbers. So I make a collection of it. So rolling of a die and the outcome be the occurrence of a even number. Now the word used is exhaustive events. The total number of possible outcomes. When I roll a six-faced die which has six numbers onto it, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like suppose it has these numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these are the only possibilities. And when I collect them together, so these are the all possible outcomes. So rolling of a six-faced die, how many possible outcomes are there? Six. So rolling of a die has six exhaustive events. Now, what do you mean by the favorable events? The number of outcomes that entail the happening of an event. Suppose there is a pack of 52 cards and I want that I should get a ace. इन हिंदी वी कॉल इट इक्का. मतलब 52 कार्ड्स का एक पैक है और हम चाहते हैं कि इक्का आ जाए. तो इक्का कितनी पॉसिबिलिटीज होती हैं? एक पैक जो 52 कार्ड्स का एक पैक होता है उसके अंदर चार डिफरेंट टाइप्स होती हैं, फोर डिफरेंट सूट्स आते हैं एंड ईच सूट हैज वन एस. सो व्हाट आर द पॉसिबल favorable chances? Four chances are there to get a ace. Means you can get an ace of heart, you can get an ace of spade, like this. Suppose you want to have spade from a deck of 52 cards. Now, a deck of 52 cards is actually split into four suits, each having 13 cards each. So if you want a spade, one spade, so how many possibilities are there? Of the 13 spades, you can get any one. Now, what do you mean by mutually exclusive events? If no two or more of them can happen simultaneously in the same trial. Suppose I roll a die. Either I'll get one or I'll get two. It cannot happen that I'll get one and two together. It will never happen. If I toss a coin, either I'll get head or I'll get tail. But it is never going to happen that I will get both the situations together. So such situations, they are called as mutually exclusive events. Now we come to equally likely events. So what do we mean by that? The events which have equal chances of occurrence means that is the case of unbiasedness. There is no cheating involved in the process. And we say, I toss the coin, either I'll get head or tail. So the occurrence of head or tail is equally likely. Now, what do we mean by independent events? If the happening of one event does not influence the happening of another event, such events are called as independent events. Now see, I toss a coin, I get one. I toss a die or I roll a die, I get one. I roll the die again, I may get two. But that occurrence of two is not influenced by the occurrence of one in the previous try. So these are called as independent events.